Well, hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're at the Center for Spiritual Living, Westlake Village, California, in case you thought you were somewhere else. You're not. You're here tonight. And I would like to welcome everyone who might be on the live stream tonight, and most especially Center for Spiritual Living in Carlsbad. They're live streaming it for their entire center, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Turn to someone and say, welcome. I know that some of you have come from a distance to be here tonight, and you're in for a real treat. Our presenter tonight is someone so near and dear to my heart. When I first got to know him, was listening to him on my commute on KFWB every afternoon. How many other people listen to him? Yes. And I said to myself, one of these days, he's going to be coming to the Center for Spiritual Living in Westlake. And wouldn't you know, I said, as I was walking by Reverend John Lusk one day, I said, John, it would really be nice to have Les Brown come and speak here. And he said, wow, I just happen to have his cell phone number. That's how mind works. It's a wonderful thing. And we called him. And, well, he tells the story so much better than I do. But Reverend Sandra Dixon called him, and he said, do you know who I am? And she said, well, not really. I know you're not the band leader. But she said, our minister really loves you and wants to have you come and speak at our center. And a relationship was born that has just been phenomenal, He has wonderful credentials, and some of which he will share with you when he comes up here himself. He is somebody that if you don't know his work, you want to know his work, because he is just an amazing, amazing individual. And consciousness prevails. So rather than giving you a litany of all the wonderful things he's ever done, I'll let him show you who he is by inviting him to come up. Give him a warm round of applause, Mr. Les Brown.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And please give Reverend Maureen a round of applause. A wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to spend a few moments. You're going to also meet a business partner of mine as well, and we do work together, Dr. Julie Van Putten, and she's going to be presenting with me as well. How many have some major goals you want to achieve? Raise your hands, please. Very good. Shake someone's hand on your right and left, look them in the eyes and say, you have something special. You have something special. You have greatness within you. And one of the things in a book, Katie says that a primary cause of our suffering in humankind is forgetfulness, forgetting who we are, because we've been sold something else. Today, when I came in, I was talking to Reverend Maureen, and she seemed taken aback that I flew from Orlando to be here. And so she said, just for us? I said, just for you. I said, you got it like that. and what happens is this, that many times I think that we forget the kind of impact that we have on people, and she's just such a loving, giving person. And she gives of herself, and she's a person who's just very humble spirit. So it is my pleasure and honor to serve her always. That's my spiritual leader. Give her a round of applause, if you please. as I'm standing before you, I'm making some adjustments in my clothes. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I was giving a presentation in Fort Lauderdale a few weeks ago. Somebody asked me what was the most embarrassing moment as a speaker that I've ever had. And it literally took place a few weeks ago in Fort Lauderdale. I train speakers. That's what my gifting is. I've been known for speaking, but I train people how to take their story and how to make a difference with an audience, how to develop their brand and develop a national and international reputation for speaking and changing lives. And so one of the speakers that I trained, she was speaking and she wanted me to hear her speak. And I was upstairs preparing to get ready, and I wasn't quite ready. And so they said, Les, they're bringing her up now. I said, oh my goodness. So I couldn't find my belt. So I went down without my belt, all right? So I come trying to look cool with my hand in my pocket, you know, hoping they didn't think I was sagging, right? So I'm coming in trying to look all kind of cool and sit down. And so she made her presentation. I was taking notes. But unbeknownst to me, the other speaker who was supposed to be up canceled, and they invited me up to come up to speak. I can't get out of it. So I'm trying to say, no, not now. And they said, no, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Les Brown. So I come up with my hands in my pocket, and I said, you know, one of the things about life, you have to learn to live life as it is. And I said, and when you're pursuing your dream, my pants dropped down to my ankles. And I had on Mickey Mouse underwear. Oh my God! I said, oh God! I turned red, but couldn't nobody see it. Oh my God! I said, oh God! You know, I went behind the podium and spoke for about 20 minutes, and finally a guy from the audience realized the dilemma that I was in and came up and gave me his belt. Oh, thank God for observant people in this life. So I was just checking myself out up here, you know? I say, I hope everything is in place. You know, we have emotional memory. This is really challenging. I have a young lady here that I work with who is going to be a powerful speaker and salesperson who's a business partner of mine, and her name is Bree. Give Bree a round of applause. Stand up, Bree, so they can see you. That's Bree. I said that you have something special. I want you to shake someone's hand on your right and left, look them in the eyes and say, you have greatness in you. Do that right now. You know, one of the things about this work, years ago, as I was coming here and just thinking about when I used to have meetings on Wednesday night in Liberty City in Miami, Florida, at the Caleb Auditorium on 54th Street and 22nd Avenue. I had no idea when I had those meetings, and I put the meetings together for the purpose of just keeping my morale high. I had just returned back to Miami. I was a state legislator in Columbus, Ohio, and I had left Miami years ago to go to Columbus, Ohio to pursue a career in radio broadcasting. You know, Edward Albee had a play called the Zoo Story, and he said, sometimes you have to go a long distance out of the way to come back a short distance correctly. And so I came back to Miami because I wanted to be able to take care of my mother. My brothers and sisters called me and said, Mama is sick, she can't take care of herself, and they were going to put her in a nursing home. And I said no, and they said, we knew you would say that. And I said no, and see, I had a problem. I'm one of 7 children my mother adopted. And I was born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida called Liberty. And we need a microphone that has another battery, an Eveready battery. Okay, it might be here. Okay, so let's try this one out. Okay, and maybe we can, is this all right? Very good. Now I can sing for you. Love me tender, love me true. Oh, you can't handle the voice. Whatever. I got to tell you about that. Anyhow, so I said no. So I had a problem. Mama worked hard to raise us. And she cleaned homes on Miami Beach. She cooked for families, and we ate the food left over from the families that she cooked for. And she kept children, and we wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that she kept. And I just couldn't see how 7 grown people couldn't take care of one woman. So I had a problem with that, and I said no. And so I resigned my position. I just got elected to the Ohio legislature as the chairman of the Human Resource Committee. I was the chairman of the Education Committee, and I was going to run for Congress and for the Senate, and so I had a promising political career. I enjoyed politics, but I love my mama. I always say when I speak, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother. So I resigned from the Ohio legislature, went back to Miami, and I was taking care of mama, and I needed to do something to keep my spirits high. How many of you know taking care of someone you love who used to be your rock? It's a challenging thing. Raise your hands, please. It's challenging. And so I started teaching from a book called Discover the Power Within by Eric Butterworth. I had spoken for Eric on several occasions, and I graduated from the Johnny Coleman Institute of Better Living, and I was raised on Ernest Holmes, This Thing Called Life. When Mama was doing cleaning homes on Miami Beach, they had these recordings of 45, This Thing Called Life, with the organ sound, Ernest Holmes. And Mr. Sodersky, one of the families we worked for, he was a very belligerent guy and sometimes very arrogant and rude. Leslie, come in here and clean my office again, with his guests when they were there, and they found it embarrassing. And he really should talk to me that way because of the fact that I didn't do his office as well as I could have. And the reason I didn't is because I wanted to be in the office when he was listening to Ernest Holmes. Those lectures changed my life. There I was, 10 years old, and listening to those words on a regular basis began to expand my vision of myself beyond my mental conditioning and my circumstances. Those words as he spoke, and as I speak to you right now, I said, this just can't be true. It's just, there's got to be a catch here. Something's got to be wrong with this, because the words that he spoke was talking about a reality that I was not experiencing at that point in time. And I just could not believe that the kind of life that he was saying that I could live was possible for me, given my circumstances and given my mental conditioning. And so I want you to write this down, reject. And so I had to learn how to reject the images that I had been instilled with. I had to learn how to reject the past that I had come to know, because of the fact that my past did not have to become my future. There's a play I love. It's just one. It's a movie, and it's called Magnolia. And Tom Cruise is in the movie. I've never seen the movie, but there was one line. You ever had a line you ever heard in a movie and it grabbed you and it touched you and it was worth the movie for you? How many of you have ever had that experience? And there was a line in the movie. I woke up around 2:30 in the morning. And the line was, we might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us. We might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us. And so therefore, that there were things that I was holding on to, this image of myself. There were things that I allowed to control my present and my future, that had no right to do that I gave it that kind of power. I gave it that kind of permission. And so here I was teaching a class called Discover the Power Within, by Eric Butterworth, but my life was not reflecting that. And I was now working on myself because this person who I told, Mama, what is it, Leslie, when we're cleaning these big, beautiful homes on Miami Beach? When I become a man, I'm going to buy you a big, beautiful home just like this. I want you to think about some goals in 3 areas of your life. I want you to think about some financial goal that you'd like to achieve. That's a healing in and of itself, because I had to heal the poverty consciousness that I had been instilled with. And I want you to think about a goal of something that you'd like to do for someone you care about. One of the goals I had as a child, I said, Mama, when I become a man, I will take care of you. Mama used to work in nursing homes, and she never wanted to be in a nursing home. And I made a promise to her that I will take care of you. You will not be in a nursing home. And then I want you to think about your social contribution. And so part of what I was doing, I remember reading in this book, and there's a line that said that we give a message out of our mess. And I was teaching these classes in Liberty City, drug-infested, poverty-stricken area where I was born and raised. And I was calling forth those things that be not as though they were, in the heart of Liberty City. Had no idea of where that was going to lead me. Let me share something with you. Some of you right here, this is going to be a breakthrough night for you. When I had you to shake someone's hand on your right and left and say you'll have something special, I want you to know that you have no idea whose hand you just shook. No idea. Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor is in the heart of mankind what God has in store for that hand that you touch, for that pulse that you felt. I had no idea in teaching those classes and calling forth things that I did not reflect in my life at that point in time, that I literally was on the verge of bankruptcy as I was teaching a prosperity class by Catherine Ponder. On the verge of bankruptcy. How many of you know that one sickness can wipe out a fortune? Raise your hands, please. One sickness. However, your ability to create wealth has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank. It has to do with your state of mind. And so there I was teaching this class on the dynamic laws of healing, and I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. My mother had breast cancer, and I said, Mama, I'm going to take care of you. And so I'm going through this and going through a divorce at the same time. How many of you know either one of those things can take you out? Raise your hands, please. You know, people talk about the law of attraction. I said, look here, let me tell you something. That we attract these things in our lives because we need to grow. I want to say, Lord, I have grown enough. Let me tell you something up in here. I said, I don't know what I've done to deserve this. Oh, no, homie, don't play that. And so there I was dealing with and teaching these classes on prosperity and on healing. And my PSA at that time was 125, which stands for prostate specific antigen. The last time I was here, it was 2,400. Now it's 0. Come on, all right. Oh, you can do better than that. And trust me, it's better to be seen than to be viewed, you know? Can you feel a brother up in here? Yeah. So I can say to you that, you know, when I look at from that time to this time, you know, today I overslept. And because I was in India last week this time. I was in India, New Delhi, and Bangalore, and South Africa, and Johannesburg, South Africa. I spoke in Sweden since the last time I was here, and Poland. I've always wanted to go to Auschwitz. I read the book Man's Search for Meaning. I wanted to go and visit this place in Poland. Frank, I wanted to go to the place where she was. When I think about all of the places, starting out in Liberty City, training and teaching these classes of something that I did not believe myself at the time that I was doing it. And I understand when we say that faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing, because here's how what we do and what we manifest in our lives, it comes out of our belief system. And guess how beliefs are formed? Beliefs are formed, one, through experiences, things that you've experienced. And two, they're formed by information. And so I was providing information to people to convince them that they had something special. They had greatness within them. And guess who was being convinced the most? I was. And I had no idea, just teaching the class, that I did not have a belief system that was reflected in my life at that time. That years later, as a result of doing exactly what you're doing now, going through sessions, coming to classes, that I would become a high-in demand speaker, that I would have over 3,000 requests a year. I had no idea. Years later, the life that I live now is diametrically opposed to that which I once lived when I started teaching the classes, that I would earn more in 1 hour than 90% of the American public earn working for a whole year. I had no idea. When I was teaching those classes, trying to make myself available so that I can take care of mama and be able to do something that I love, that years later that I would speak for a pharmaceutical company that would pay me more in 1 month than the average American working for 5 years would earn. Now, I don't know you, but here's what I know about you. You have something special. You have greatness within you. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. And one of the things that we have to do as we begin to look at ourselves and look at where we are, look at where we want to go, is that we have to be relentless. Write this down. You have to be relentless in telling yourself this over and over and over again, especially if your life is not reflecting that, especially if you have physical discomfort in your body, as I had this evening when I was getting ready to come here, and now I'm not experiencing any, especially when at one point when I was teaching these classes, I was so broke I could walk past a bank and trip the alarm. Creditors would call the house and my children would say, my daddy say he ain't home. I mean to tell you that you have to be relentless and vigilant on your thoughts. We're told, judge not according to appearances. Why? Because most of the time we do. We judge according to appearances. We're told death and life is in the tongue. Well, why would they say that? Why not say life and death is in the tongue? Because we speak, for the most part, more death than we do life. And so therefore, we have to be conscious of the things that we say. We have to be conscious of the thoughts that we entertain. We have to be conscious of how we conduct ourselves and how we show up when things happen in our lives that we cannot anticipate. That life will, surprise you sometimes. Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. How many of you know that's real? Raise your hands, please. That's all I got to say about that. You just never know. I just had no idea. The doctor said to me, Mr. Brown, you have cancer. Those are 3 most feared words in the world in 7 different languages. I said, can you give me a second opinion? Yes, and you're ugly too. No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. But I had to now, all the things that I'd been reading, all the things that I've been teaching, I had to deal with that. I had to call all that into play. And it's like life. It's interesting. It's fascinating. Helen Keller said, no, it was Mother Teresa. She said, just when I thought I got a handle on life, the handle broke. You know, just when you think you got this stuff figured out, then life is, oh, you got that figured out? I got something for you up in here, Mr. Motivator. I got something for you. How many of you been there? Raise your hands, please. I'm telling you, it's all kinds of stuff with your children. You know, I was telling my son the other day, I said, let me tell you something, John Leslie. You don't have enough time on the planet to give me your opinion for what you think to matter to me. You haven't gone through anything yet, son. Trust me on this. There's a time as you're holding my grandson in your arms. Remember this conversation. How many of you know that there are moments in your life that you've got to make it okay that your kids hate your guts? I mean, you know, you got to make that okay. It's a part of the process. And I said, as you're trying to convince me of this insanity that you're talking about right now, so you about to make me lose my mind up in here, up in here. You about to make me act a fool up in here, up in here. I'm trying to help you. Help me to help you. How many moments in your life when you're working with your kids, you say, you know, you about to make me snap, you know? It's a part of this thing called life. And I just said, be patient, because that used to be you. When I thought I knew it all, that used to be you. And Mamie Brown, she was not exactly tactful. My mother, she said, I'll knock you in the middle of next week. Today they would charge her with child abuse. She was a trip. I never forget, I was arrested for stealing a bicycle. And so the guy who arrested me, named Jimmy Wilson, he said, you look familiar. I said, I do? He said, yes. He said, are you Mamie Brown's boy? You one of the twins? I said, yes. He said to his partner, said, no, I'm going to take him home. I said, no, take me to jail. Because I knew what was going to happen. When they took me home, I know Mom was going to jack me up. You know? Oh, my God. But as I look at my life and look at the things that I'm doing right now and the work that I'm involved in, I remember doing some work in South Africa. And I wanted to go to Robben's Island. I saw the house where Nelson Mandela was, and they showed us the place where the policemen shot in the walls. And what really grabbed me, when I was doing a training, I left the room and had given some of the students an assignment to do of coming up with a 91-day action plan for their dream. And I heard someone saying, no, you ask him. No, you ask him. No, you ask him. And then finally I said, hey, what's going on? He said, how do you dream? Excuse me? How do you dream? It was a group of people just 20 years out of apartheid. 20 years ago, they couldn't go to college. 20 years ago, they didn't have the option of being educated. 20 years ago, they couldn't have dreams of things they wanted to do with their lives. They wanted to know, how do you dream? What does that look like? And I'd tell them, close your eyes. I want you to visualize a lion. I said, if you see it, raise your hands. And they did. I said, good. I said, I want you to visualize an elephant. If you see it, raise your hands. They did. I said, I want you to see yourself riding the back of the elephant. Can you see it? And they said, yes. I said, 5 years from now, I want you to visualize yourself at a college graduation and having a certificate in your career and people being there, cheering you on, encouraging you. I said, can you see it? And their hands went up slowly and tears falling down their faces. Because for the first time, they had the ability to live out of their imagination as opposed to their history. For the first time, that they were able to dream. And here's what really got me. When I'm coming back home, that I spoke to these entrepreneurs in Hong Kong 3 weeks ago, and they were briefing me backstage saying, Don't mention entrepreneurship. Don't mention multi-level marketing. Don't mention having a business of your own. Why? Because in the countries where they're going back to, that's against the law. They can go to jail. Now think about that. And here we have people talking about and tearing down this country that we don't have to think about going to jail because we have some goals or dreams here. We don't have to look over our shoulders because somebody in this room might tell some government official that there's something different that we want to do with our life. And when I think about things that we take for granted here, when I'm in traffic and a mother holding her baby saying, please give me something for my child, and I'm reaching in my pocket, I'd given all I had, and they said, Les, don't look. I said, I've already looked. It says, don't look in their eyes. Don't look at them. I said, I can't help it. I've already done that. And it was humbling, but it also was a resolve that the work that I must do, but for the grace of God, there goes my mother, holding me in her arms, trying to get some food for me to eat, that somebody made it possible for me to stand here, to speak to you right now. Somebody paid a price for us to be in this room and to hear a message of empowerment, of how we can live our dreams rather than our fears. Someone paid a price for us to be here this evening. Let's give a round of applause to the people who paid the price. Come on, bring the energy level up. And so one of the major things as we look at ourselves, if it's finding a physical healing for a situation that we're dealing with, if it's starting our own business, if it's earning more money, if it's healing relationships in our lives, if it's making some major contribution, something that you'd like to do. One of the major causes that I support is causes dealing with breast cancer. My mother was a 22-year breast cancer conqueror. One of the things that I strongly believe that we have to begin to help people to understand the work that Dr. Ernest Holmes did, and Charles Fillmore, and Joel Goldsmith, all of these guys who started this whole area of psychoneuroimmunology years before science got on board, that talked about the impact that our thoughts have on our body's immune system. And that one of the things I believe it's very important that we create other voices of hope, other voices of strategic communicators who can tell the story about their experience and be able, let us say together, distract. Say distract. Dispute. And inspire. I want you to write that down. When I train speakers, when I train coaches, when I'm speaking to audiences, what I'm doing right now is practicing a principle of distract, dispute, and inspire. How we live our lives is a result of the story we believe about ourselves. And so what I was doing in Liberty City and Overtown, where I was born and raised in an abandoned building on a floor, I was distracting the members of the audience and myself from the story we bought into. There were signs on Miami Beach that said, Jews, dogs, and the N-word not allowed. So when you go through that kind of experience over and over again, and you're treated less than, you begin to unconsciously buy into that label that has been placed upon you. And so that when we speak as trainers, when we speak as entrepreneurs, when we speak as individuals who want to make a difference in life, that we're distracting people from the story they have accepted about themselves. And that through the delivery strategically of their story, they dismantle the limited belief system that we have and inspire people to make new choices. So when Dr. Johnny Coben out of Chicago, who, when I heard her speak, and she built one of the largest New Thought movements on the planet, when she spoke, she was very electrifying. When she spoke, she was very inspiring. And as a result of her speaking and her style, it helped me to begin to get a larger vision of myself. I left Chicago and went back to Columbus, Ohio, where I was a radio personality, and I ran for the Ohio legislature, and I was elected to office 3 different times. And then I resigned and went back to Miami to take care of my mother. And because of the vision that I gotten of myself, of the things that I learned from Ernest Holmes and Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore, and things that I had learned from Phineas Quimby and the various New Thought minds, and studying them, that I was able to get a larger vision of myself, making a difference in people's lives on all levels. And I say to you, some of you have some things that you want to do in your community. Some of you have things that you want to do for your family members or for yourself. There are things that you want to achieve. There are things that impact that you want to make in life. How many like to make a greater impact? Raise your hands, please. And I can tell you, and let us say together, it's possible. It's possible. Yes, I want you to write that down. It's possible. Yeah, the easiest thing for me to do is to come in and to speak to you. That's the easy part. But the most difficult thing I've ever done, and it took me 14 years to do it, was to believe that I could do it. That I, Les Brown, if both my parents stood up right now and said, "Hello, son," I would not know either one. That I, Les Brown, no college education. When I was in the 5th grade, I was labeled educable, mentally retarded, and put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, and failed again when I was in the 8th grade. That I, Les Brown, had the ability to speak and say something that had value to people. I was living my life off a negative assumption. I assume, because I don't have a college education, that I was not worthy, that no one would pay me money to hear me speak. I assume, because I would have to compete against people with PhDs and MBAs, that nobody would pay me when there are people out there with more credentials than I have. I assume, because I never worked for a major corporation, that AT&T, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's Corporation, General Electric, IBM, Xerox, these are clients that I have. I assume that they would not hire me because of the fact that I have no corporate background. How many of you ever made some negative assumptions about yourself? Raise your hands, please. And so my life was being governed by these negative assumptions. I assumed. Nobody made me do it. I did it myself. It brings forth the words of Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He said, if you can determine what a man shall think, you never have to concern yourself with what he will do. He said, if you can make a man feel inferior, you'll never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. And if there's no door, his very nature will demand one. And so when I was talking to people in government there in South Africa, I said, these people need more than just a job. I said, they need to have a restoration. They need to be connected with the identity of the truth of who they really are, as opposed to how they've been treated, as opposed to who the government said that they could be. I said, this requires a mind job, because once you can establish in their minds and give them a different story of themselves, once a person has a positive sense of identity, that gives their lives a sense of purpose. And once your life has a sense of purpose, that gives your life a sense of direction. And as you look at yourself and look at your goals and look at your dreams, one of the things I think is very important is that not only must we affirm that we have something special, but one you have to do is you've got to challenge yourself. You've got to give yourself some challenges. You've got to test yourself. You've got to put it to the test. I was teaching a class in Liberty City, and this high school, Northwestern Senior High School, we played against them in football at Booker T. Washington High School. And I was saying, you are God's millionaire. You have something special. You have greatness within you. The little guy raised his hand. He said, Mr. Brown. I said, yes. He said, you said we're God's millionaires. I said, yes. He said, are you a millionaire? So I said, yes. I said, I have my health. My children are healthy and fine. I'm taking care of my mother. She's doing great. I have an opportunity to be here with you. I said, yes, I'm God's millionaire. And the kids applauded. And then when the applause died down, he said, but do you have $1 million in the bank? You just can't get away from these kids today. So the kids looked at him, and then they looked at me. Like, what's up? And I said, no. And he said, oh. And he sat down. And with the energy shift in the room, how many of you know everything is energy? Raise your hands, please. I knew the energy was on his side. And so when class ended that day, there I was in the parking lot, putting things away in my Chevy station wagon, and he drove by in a brand new Cadillac and tooted his horn and said, and I wanted to say, this is my cousin car. I got a Cadillac like you too. Oh my God. And so when I went home that night, I'm teaching a class on God's millionaire, and there was nothing in my life that reflected that. And I said, I've got to be able to say this from a place of integrity. I've got to prove this in my life. And so I put myself to the challenge. And I'm going to do something very simple with you right now. How many of you ever made some major mistakes in life that if you had your life to live over again, what you have learned would be beneficial to people? Stand up. Stand up. Wow, that's the majority of you. Sit down. How many of you, for a period in your life, just like me, you were temporarily insane? Stand up, please. Very good. You may sit down. Now, write this down. Knowledge is the new currency. Knowledge is the new currency. There are things that you've experienced. There are things that you've gone through. There are things that you have done that can be beneficial to people. So, here's what you can do with that. Now, when I read this, I said it just can't be this simple. You want to create, remember I said knowledge is new currency. So the reason they bring me to Hong Kong, the reason they bring me to Poland, to Sweden, is for the information that I have. But not just for the information. They're bringing me in because, and write this down, you have an energy signature and your personality. But there are certain people, when I speak, they're going to hear me, and they will hear me in their ears, but they will listen to me in their heart, and they will respond to me. There are certain people that when Reverend Maureen speaks, that she will resonate with them more. They will hear her in their ears, but they will feel her in their heart. Am I making sense? There are certain people, when you speak, what's your name, sir? DJ. When you speak, there are certain people who's going to hear you. So let's say I did an interview with you, which I'm going to do one very shortly with Dr. Julie Van Putten. And we did a 20-minute interview, all right, around something that you have an interest in. What is something that you do well, that you feel confident about?
I like to paint and draw.
Could you give people instructions of how to bring out the creative side of them? Yeah. Good. Okay, so I did an interview with you on tapping into the creative part of your life, all right? And we do that 4 different times, 20 minutes, all right? Now, I did this. I did an interview, But in addition to that, I did 4 speeches: Getting Unstuck, Keys to Self-Motivation, You Gotta Be Hungry, and Live Full and Die Empty. This is during the time of cassettes. I put a rubber band around them. Now, in order to make $1 million, you have to have a product that you can sell. Am I correct? Yes. So, if I had one product, Getting Unstuck, and I sold 100,000 of those, I would make how much? $1 million. Just one product, right? But if I had 4, now all I have to do is sell 25,000, and I have $1 million. So I learned how, with a rubber band, a guy named Jack Boland had a church called the Church of Today. Marianne Williamson took over when he passed. He had them packaged for me, but I gave 4 speeches at his church. It took me 3 years to sell 25,000, giving free speeches, and I did $1.6 million. You ought to applaud that. That's simple. That is simple. And so as you look at yourself, look at your goals, and look at your dreams, I gave myself 5 years to do it. I made my first million in 3 years. Now, this is in 1980. This is before LinkedIn. This is before Twitter. This is before Facebook. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's a whole different game right now. You can have your own radio station online, your own TV station online. The tools are available, but because of mental conditioning, because we've been trained and conditioned to think in terms of a job, the journey of the broke, that we're living out of our memory as opposed to our imagination. Am I making sense with anybody? And so right now, this stage of my life, I've had an experience. Everybody knows I'm a 19-year prostate cancer conqueror. Yeah, yeah. So what I'm going to do is have Dr. Julie Van Putten come up, who I talked about earlier. Give her a round of applause. Dr. Julie, come on, y'all can do better than that. Come on now. Now, Dr. Julie, first of all, the value and the power of words. Let us say together, words have power. Words have power. Now, she came up she went to school in the poor section of Detroit. And in this school system, they had a career event coming up, and teachers were asking kids, what was the questions they asked?
Well, I was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said I wanted to be a doctor. Now, I'm going to go back a little ways, because at that point in time in my life, I realized that sometimes what you want and what other people see for you are quite different. And I had the absolute fortune to come to the United States when I was 4. My family was from the island of Trinidad and Tobago. And my parents came to the United States to get a better education. So as a daughter of an immigrant, I really came to the United States with a sense of there's something here for me to do. And I watched my parents make a lot of sacrifices, Les, in pursuit of something that they couldn't find where they were, and that was an education. And so I valued education, and from the age of 4, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. And so life would have it that I had various experiences growing up in the South in Alabama in the 60s, and then going on to Detroit in the 60s. And if anybody remembered what happened there in the 60s, there was a lot of civil upheaval. And so my parents took me from the inner city to another school on the other side of town. At that time there was busing. And And I went to this new school, and I was in an environment completely different than I had ever been before. And at that point in time, the teacher said to me, "What do you want to be, Julie?" And I said, "I want to be a doctor." And she said, "It looks like your grades in math." Now, mind you, I had excellent grades in everything else, but that was the age of new math. And I had had the old math. In fact, I had no math because of what had gone on.
Yes,
and so Les.
yes. But I want to inject here about the story you buy and about yourself. In Miami, the test scores were given out of the new textbooks. But in Liberty City and Overtown, we didn't get the new textbooks. We got the old textbooks. So when the Miami Herald said we scored poorly because we were inferior, we agreed because we had the scores to prove it. We bought into the lie. Go ahead.
And so at that point in time, my mom was a biology teacher. My dad was an MBA working as an administrator. And he said, "Why don't you do what your parents do? Why don't you think about management? Or why don't you think about being a school teacher? Or why don't you think about being a counselor because you speak really well?" So I bought into that, Les. I said, okay, that's what I want to be. But back in the back of my head, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. And I think the thing that experience taught me more than anything else is to live my life from a place of safety. I never gave up my dream of being a doctor, but just the questions that person put in my head, maybe that's not for you, started me questioning myself.
And so, remember I said distract. So she bought into a story of limitation about herself. And so what happened after that?
So after that, I went on. I did a pre-college academic diploma in high school. I did really well in high school. I actually went on in college, and I did really well. I graduated magna cum laude. But what happened for me is that big question led to the next thing, an attitude of, I don't want to fail. I'm going to only take those classes that I'm good in. I'm going to only do those kinds of things that I know I'm going to succeed in. Has that ever happened to you where you've questioned yourself, where something has happened, whether an experience of life where you actually failed, or something happened to you where you allowed yourself to talk yourself out of what you wanted? And so I would actually take the organic chemistry class and then wait till the midterm and then drop the class and then go, okay, that's not for me. I don't think I'll pass that. So I graduated from college, Les. I had a degree in health science. I said, well, since I can't be a doctor, which was what I told myself, what I'll do is I'll go to grad school, and I'm going to be a prevention. I got an MPH from a school of public health. I actually went on to get a master's. I worked in public health as a community activist, and I taught, and I went on and got another master's in marriage and family therapy, and I worked with families. But back in the back of my head, I always wanted to be a doctor.
How many of you have ever gone through what she went through? Raise your hands, please. And remember, how we live our lives is a result of the story we believe about ourselves. And so what happened after that?
So after that, I worked. I actually taught in a school of public health. I was an associate professor. I had a great career as a trainer. I graduated from college when I was about 19, and I finished my grad school when I was about 21. And one year I was working at the American Public Health Association convention, and someone who saw me there who was on a committee said, "Julie, I've heard you, we were having lunch," and I had said something to him. He was a physician. I said, I always wanted to do that, but, that's really not for me. I'm really too old now.
And so this person challenged her. Remember, I said the work that we do, distract, what's the next thing? Dispute, and what's the next thing? Inspire. And so what happened in the conversation?
He looked at me and he said, "Julie, you can be anything you want to be." And it was as someone really just took a veil off of my eyes. And I said, "Really?" He said, are you going to die, or do you think that you're not going to grow older? And I said, "Of course. I have no plan to be out of here." And he said, "Well, you're going to be that old anyway. You might as well go after what you want." And so what happened then for me is I said, I may not realize this, but here's what I am going to do. I'm going to give it everything I have. And then I said, listen to that thinking. I may not realize this. No, I am going to do this. This is what I've wanted to do. This is what I'm going to go after. And by this time, I'd been out of school almost 10 years, and I had to actually go back to school, and I had to take math courses and to be able to do calculus. I redid all my science classes. I redid general biology. I did organic chemistry again. I did general chemistry again. I did physics again. It took me 4 years, but at the age of 32, I got a full scholarship to an MD PhD program at Ohio State University. And thank you for that. Thank you for the applause. I hope you're applauding for yourself, because while that was something that really took me 4 years to do and actually 10 years to complete, I finished medical school, both degrees, when I was 40, and my residency when I was 43, and I'm just 45 now. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did. But the story is not about me getting a medical degree and doing an MD PhD, because there's something in each one of us that says, just like this book talks about, and it comes back, I guess I left it over here, the dynamic laws of healing. Healing is something that allows us to change what has been into what can be. Healing is an attitude, first of all, that says there's something inside of me that shows up in a physical reality that allows me to change what was to what can be. It's very different from curing. Curing sometimes is about fixing. It's about taking what's broken and making it right. When we heal our lives, whether it be from a lie that we've told ourselves for 10 years, in my case 14 years, when we heal inside out, we take something which is fixed in stone. Sometimes for us, it's something that was done to us. Sometimes for us, it's something that was done by us to our own minds. And we allow this thing that rules our life, this amazing machine, this brain, to rewrite the stories that we've told about ourselves, to send different chemical messengers down to different cells, to tell cells in our body that you don't have to arrange this way to manifest this way, that these cells can regenerate. 70,000 neurons in our brain die every day. And that doesn't mean that they die and they become useless. No, your brain, just like your body, has the ability to regenerate itself. It has the ability to take what was and form not only new attitudes or new behaviors, but the most important part of healing, and as our journey has been in healing, is that, to me, the H stands for hope. You give yourself hope that there is a different tomorrow than you're experiencing today, Les. You give yourself this sense of, even if I'm living with a condition that may never change, and as a physician, I deal with people all the time who have parts of themselves that will not come back in the way they came out of the womb. There is a new reality. There is a before and there's an after. It doesn't mean that they can't work with that. It doesn't mean that what's there can't come out and become something new. And that hope that we have inside of ourselves affirms itself less in the experiences that we have. E stands to me for the experiences. Every experience in your life can be brought to serve you, to serve life itself, to allow who you are and who you are to become, to be this person that is healed.
And the other P in the P stands for purpose. That when you start thinking about, why am I here? When I was dealing with, unfortunately, I had the very good fortune of, and I want you to write this down, positive reinforcers in your life. Positive reinforcers. Dr. Julie was there when Dr. Stone told me that cancer had metastasized to 7 areas of my body. including the bones. And people think that I was joking when I started laughing. And the reason I started laughing was not that I was in denial, but 7 is my lucky number. I'm one of 7 kids. I was born February the 17th. 7 is my lucky number. Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times. Naaman dipped himself in the river Jordan 7 times. 7 is my lucky number. My social security number is 267. My phone number is 702. Did I tell you 7 is my lucky number? My address is 877. Did I tell you 7 is my lucky number? So he said, cancer has metastasized to 7 areas of your body. I knew at that time that cancer was being beaten up because 7 is my lucky number. But what you said to me as we were coming out, here's someone with a PhD in preventative medicine and an MD, you said, we're going to beat this. A positive reinforcer. And she said it with such conviction. I know she's a scientist. When you spoke that, I felt that at the cellular level. And I knew it was a done deal. Stick a fork in it. Cancer is about to become killed in my body. And so having positive reinforcers in your life, people who can see it for you, people who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself, is very important. One of the things I strongly believe is sometimes you have to believe in somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. Does that make sense?
I think, I was spelling out the word heal, H-E-A-L.
Oh, and I went to another place.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
we got it like that, all right? Yeah? I'm sorry. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to let you take this right now. And then I'll come back. Give Dr. Julie a round of applause, if you please. Come on, you can do better than that.
So when you look at this amazing book by Catherine Ponder, and I am not as familiar with it as I am going to be, because I think every time I read something in here, I walk away with a different sense of myself and what's possible for me. One of the things that's so important that Les talked about is attitudes. And A in healing stands for attitudes for me. I think our attitude about who we are, what we're doing in the world, and what this physical body and what this is as who we are, how we show up in the world, has everything to do with not only our purpose, but what we do for our own self-help and for our own self-healing. And I think the other thing that's becoming more powerful is not only our own attitudes, but the attitudes of people around us. We know that if you have a friend that is negative, the ability for that to be transmitted, even if that friend's friend is negative, we know through scientific studies that that has the power to affect you. And so one of the things that I look at as a physician and a scientist is, what is the attitude that I bring to my work? Do I see myself as a helper? Do I see myself as a fixer? Do I see myself as somebody who serves? One of my mentors is Rachel Naomi Remen. How many of you are familiar with her work? If you're not, this is a new treasure that I've just introduced to your life. Rachel is a pediatrician. She's at the forefront of the integrative medicine movement. She trained at Stanford, and she herself developed Crohn's disease when she was quite young. She's had over 15 different operations. She's actually had her colon out. And she talks about the power of what happens when in your own body you live with a different reality that you didn't choose. And she has 2 amazing books. The first one is called Kitchen Table Wisdom. The second one is My Grandfather's Blessings. And they're amazing little books because you can read them very simply, very quickly. They're stories. They're stories about life, about the mystery of life, about the purpose of life, about who we are as people, what we bring to life as ourselves, as physicians, but also just the experiences in life. And one of the things that she said to me when I finished medical school, and I was very bitter, I actually went in with this amazing story. I wanted to be a physician. I went back and stayed 4 years. I did an MD, PhD, and I found that I came out of that experience bitter, very broken, very cynical because of the way that the medical training itself treats the healers. And I went through, in fact, there's a whole article in this month's issue of Mindful. If you haven't seen this magazine, it's a great magazine. And it was saying that why are physicians so unhappy? What's happening to the medical profession itself that we get away from the urge to heal, the urge to practice. And it says basically the attitudes that we deal with every day, first in our own practices, in our own lives, and the attitudes that we surround ourselves with other people have an ability to get you to the place of compassion fatigue. Have you ever heard of that? And I'd like you to think about your own life for a minute and think about, are there places in your own life where you've given up on yourself? Where you've said to yourself, this is not going to be for me. Maybe it's something you wanted to go after. Maybe it's a relationship that you have said, and maybe rightfully so, that will never ever be in my life again, but you've held on to the feelings, to the attitudes, to the emotions, to the negativity that may have come with that. One of the things that Catherine Ponder says in her books is, part of healing is the ability to release, to allow parts of who you were, that were defined by the attitudes of others, that were defined by attitudes that you even placed on yourself. When you have the ability to let go of that, you have the ability to form a new reality. And in medicine, there's nothing about letting go. Part of everything that we do in our culture is about hanging on, about working harder, about working faster, about working longer. If you've ever been, anybody here in healthcare? Yeah, if you've ever been in the healthcare field, it's like we're not supposed to let go. We're supposed to do more. And that actually led to a culture in medicine where we actually sometimes forgot that sometimes doing less is better than doing more. That sometimes releasing and allowing a different part of yourself to live, allowing something to be let go, is sometimes more powerful. I remember an experience that actually happened to me today. Earlier today, I was asked to come and speak to a group in Trinidad. And the woman who called me, I knew her daughter had died literally 2 weeks ago. She was 43 years old. And I remember going to her wedding and seeing her and thinking about the incredible life that she was having. And here, I'm now talking to her mother. This happened at 3 o'clock today. And I knew that I had to say something to her about this great loss. Here she is calling me to speak on the island of Trinidad, and I knew that this was a moment in time where I could use everything about who I am and what I've experienced to give her those things that we talked about. Number one, H, hope. Number two, to take every experience in our life and allow it to serve us and allow it to heal us and allow it to get us to a different place. To examine her attitude about what's happened, about how it serves you, about how it doesn't serve you. But most powerfully, what about the attitude that addicts us to powerlessness in our own lives? One of the things that Catherine Ponder says so beautifully is, you have the power to heal your life. If we really get a hold of that, if we really believe that, if we really go after that, then it leads to what she says is this dynamic situation where we have the power and we have the ability to make changes that serve us, and we give up our addiction to powerlessness. And the last part of that is L, that we learn to love ourselves to life, not love ourselves to death. That we love the very essence of who we are, of this physical form, and how that shows up in the world. Well, back to the story. I'm talking to her, and I said, before we go any farther, I need to talk to you about your daughter, and I just need to let you know how sorry I am that this was the experience. And I just know that somewhere inside of you, there's an opportunity for you to heal this. She's gone now, but there's an opportunity for you to develop in your own life some rituals, some self-nurturing and self-care rituals that will allow you to, in the middle of this craziness, find another sense of peace and wholeness for yourself. And she paused for a minute and she said to me, you know, my daughter had diabetes from a very, very early age, but she never changed. There was this sense of nothing bad was going to happen to her. There was a sense that I didn't have to take insulin. There was a sense that none of these complications, which can happen with not recognizing what was happening in my life and in her life and to our family, because she had this now and it was a new reality, none of that ever sunk in. She totally, to the end, denied this reality in her life. And Catherine Ponder spoke about this, and she talked about the power of affirmations. And she said, affirm means to make something solid, but you can't affirm a reality that's not right. It's like building a house on an old house. If you haven't gotten rid of these old attitudes, these old beliefs, the things that have made this a part of your reality, then you're building on something that can't work. And she talked about the power of denial, how sometimes denying parts of ourselves, sometimes denying the hurts that we've actually had in our bodies, the denial of what we're supposed to be, of how we're supposed to show up in the world. When we play small, when we give ourselves excuses not to step into our greatness, when we allow ourselves, like I did for 14 years, to be talked out of what I knew was my purpose, we give up this ability to heal our own lives. We play to powerlessness. We allow a lie to form in our minds first, which gets manifested in our bodies. And she said she never accepted the fact that there was a new normal. In healing our lives, there are parts of me that have been hurt by life. There are parts of you that have had experiences in your life that, like an oyster or like a valuable pearl, comes like a piece of sand into the reality of our lives. And sometimes, in order to heal through that, Rachel says that every loss in our life gives us an opportunity to grieve. And at first when I heard that, I said, what does that mean? She said, if you don't grieve and if you don't really work through what happened to you, you actually give up part of your attachment to life, because you always will be looking back, almost like that story of Lot's wife who looked back and was changed into a pillar of salt. When we don't recognize that there are things that we must grieve in order to go on and live, we actually stop ourselves. We become this place of denial of the fact that there are emotional things that happen to us. There are physical things that have happened to us. There are psychological things that happen to us. And they're all here in our brain. And that brain every day rewrites your reality. If you want to change your life, you have to change this brain. And the whole physical space now of neuroplasticity says that every day you have the ability to actually build a better brain. You actually have the ability to form new thoughts by having new experiences that give you new emotions that allow you to exhibit and choose behaviors that actually serve you. And how do you do that? I want to give you some suggestions that help you heal your own life. And Les talked about some of those, and so let me briefly go over those. The first thing that I would like to ask you to do is to watch your words. Words are life. A good book says death and life are in the tongue. And I had to be even aware of it. I used to work in an emergency room in urgent care very early in my career. And very early in our relationship, Les would call me and he would say, how are you doing today? And I just go, my back is killing me. I've been standing for 10 hours. And what would you say to me, Les? You'd say, watch what you're saying. Your back is not killing you. Your back was meant to support you. Your back was meant to give. It might be hurting you. But if you speak a reality, oh, there's another version of your life that's waiting. Oh, no, that's not for me. What does your brain have to do? It has to make that true. It's not going to argue back to you if you don't argue back with it. And so the first thing that I would ask you to do is speak life. Practice this mindfulness in your own life where 5 to 10 to 15 pages, you start your day every day with speaking life to your brain, speaking life to your body. Some of you have conditions right now where you may have a lot of pain in your body, where you struggle with chronic things that may be defining a new reality with you. And the first thing that we know is that your brain connects to different centers, to different cells, to different emotions, to different experiences that will allow you to either transcend that or allow you to actually get sicker. We know by scientific research, there's actually a book out there that is incredible. Words Can Heal the Brain. And it really talks to the power of the words that you speak to yourself. And so the first question is, what words are you speaking to yourself? And Catherine talks about this when she talks about the power of affirmations. What words are you allowing yourself to have that give you life or that give you a reality that doesn't serve you? The second thing that I would like to suggest as a healing space for yourself, number 2 is, what is your self-care ritual? What is your self-care ritual that says to your mind, to your body, to your spirit, and your soul that you're going to be here? Now, many of you are going to say, I exercise, I drink water, I have green tea, I take lots of great things. I'm talking about a ritual. A ritual is a series of behaviors linked together. Many of us wear contacts. We pop our contacts in. All of us, I'm sure, brush our teeth. But I'm talking about a ritual that nurtures at the deepest level your purpose for your life, your cause for being here, this physical body that carries you. What do you do that gives it life? As Les said, I believe we all have an energy signature. Just like you have a physical signature, there is an energy to you. There's an energy that when people interact with you, they either say, oh, I like her, or maybe you've interacted with somebody and they just go, you go, oh, I don't like that. There's something about that person. I don't know what it is, but maybe I just don't trust them. What's your energy signature? Are you conscious of it? Are you working with it? Do you want that to be something that is life-affirming, that draws to you people and experiences and things that allow you to be the person that you meant to be? And so part of what I look at when I work with people, when I look with corporations, later in my career, I moved on to be a chief wellness officer and did a lot of population health. But I worked with a lot of top executives, the 1% of executives that as part of their HR package, they come in to and have a very comprehensive executive physical. Tops of corporations like Disney and Universal and Sam and Pepsi and large companies. And these companies recognize that if they lose a key executive to any kind of illness, they lose the wealth of their company. You're an executive. You're in charge of your own life. You're the CEO of you. And so the first question I would ask them is, what's your plan to be here? What are the rituals that you will not end the day without taking part of that send messages to your mind, to your brain, to your spirit, and to your body that you are here, you have a purpose, and these are the things that you do to keep alive? And then with that, what energy do you want to show up in life with? How do you give yourself energy? Many of us look at calories and we look at nutrients and we look at carbs and fats. Your body doesn't care about that. All it's trying to extract from anything that you eat is energy. Energy to fuel your brain first, to fuel the organs that support your body, your heart, your liver, your lungs, and then to allow you to move through life. And so the third thing that I'd just like to leave you with as part of this healing opportunity for our own lives, as Catherine gives us in this book, is how do you work with the energy in your life? Are you aware of it? Are you aware of what your own energy signature is? That unique combination of your personality, your smile, your hopes, your dreams for yourself, the way you speak, the way you interact first in your own mind, the way you serve your own body. In what way are you giving yourself the energy of life? And then finally, how does that energy flow out in the world? Who is the energy drainer in your life? Who are the people that when you're around, you know that's not good for you? How do you give your energy to life? And most importantly, how do you replenish and how do you stock it? Healing our lives is always the first reality before we heal anybody else. And I think in this amazing book and in the stories of my own life, and as Les and I have traveled throughout the world, particularly in the last 6 months, as we've been in India and South America and South Africa and Hong Kong, and we've seen that at the bottom of life and at the very top of life, people are the same. We are all bone, we're all blood, and we're all breath. Our breath can save another life. Our blood can save another life. Even down to the bone marrow, we can give bone marrow to another anonymous person, and we have the ability to generate life. And no matter how you're wrapped, whether you're short, whether you're tall, whether you're slim, whether you're plump, no matter what your personal experiences in life have been, there's going to come a moment when life will knock on your door and say, I've got something for you, something that you didn't anticipate. And in that experience of life, you have an opportunity to go through it or to grow through it, to allow everything that comes to you. And some of those things that I've seen are not things I would ever wish on anyone. Some of those things are devastating. Some of those things you look at and you say, how will I ever get through this experience? But what Catherine Ponder in this book does for us is says that there's some key elements that allow you to have hope, to use the experiences of life, to allow the attitudes, not only of your own life, but of people around you, to help you love yourself, as Louise Hay says, to allow you to love yourself to life. And in some of these, and it's too much to go through it all tonight, but I really encourage you to continue to study and look at some of the key concepts: forgiveness, releasing, affirming. What are you denying in your own life? What about the mystery of how we let all of life serve us? As a physician, as a scientist, as a speaker, as a mother, as a partner, as a friend, all of the experiences of your life are here to help you, first of all, heal your own life and show up in the world as this amazing, unique, incredible being that you were meant to be. That's what my wish for you is, and I know that because you're in this room, there's a part of you that has said tonight, I can reinvent myself. I don't have to wait 10 years to let someone's words, like they did for me, change the reality of my life. I can choose right now to allow the best of who I am, despite of what I've been through, to serve life and to serve me. That's my wish for you. Thank you very much.
Give her another round of applause, Dr. Julie Van Putten.
Thank you.
What? Now, how many of you are glad that that person spoke to her and said, you can be anything you want to be? Raise your hands. Yeah. But isn't something about the power of words? Yes. What we'd like to do now is entertain some questions from you, for Dr. Julie as well as for myself, about what
Yes.
we talked about. Yes.
Sir, go ahead and stand up.
Very good. I'm so glad that you asked the question. He said, for those of you that did not hear, he said, when you first start out, how do you get credibility? And people, when you were trying to sell yourself, they ask you, what's your background? What credibility do you have? Who have you done it for? And let me share this with you. That's a conversation. That's a story. Things changed for me when I changed the story. I was reading a book called Winning Through Intimidation by Robert Ringer. And in the book, there's a chapter called The Leapfrog Theory. Now, prior to reading that chapter, I said to Mike Williams, my mentor, Mike, I don't have a college education. Mike, how can I compete with people with PhDs and MBAs? And the phone went dead. So I called him back and said, we lost the signal. He said, we didn't lose the signal. I said, what happened? He said, I hung up. I said, why would you do that? He said, you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. He said, you better hope I win this conversation because you are arguing very hard for mediocrity. And I said, okay, talk to me. He said, Brownie, when you get sold on you, he said, things will change. He said, right now, you don't believe. He said, the biggest sales job you got to do is on you. He says, right now, I'm fighting for your new life by myself. And it reminded me of a story. I did an intervention for a friend of mine whose brother was on drugs, and he told us to leave his house. And I'll never forget, as we were going down the steps, Lorraine stopped and said, Les, don't feel bad or disappointed. I said, I do. I said, I just knew I would be able to reach him. She said, no. And she said, sometimes most people won't participate in their own rescue. Wow. Most people won't participate in their own rescue. We were there for him. He told us to leave because he wasn't willing to participate in reclaiming his life from drugs, reclaiming his life from crack. He wasn't willing to be on board with that. And so what will happen to you is what will happen to most people whenever we have new ventures and things we want to go out on. We have a racket going on in our head, and my racket was, I don't have a college education. I still don't. And I've given lectures at Harvard, at Yale, at different educational institutions. Those are not draft schools, am I right? But the thing is that I stop me. There's an African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. And so I was my biggest enemy. I stopped myself living off those negative assumptions that I could not because. And so it's a selling job on you every day. And here's the process. It's possible. If anybody had a goal and dream, what is it you want to do? What is your dream? Good. Now watch what I do with this. What is your first name, please? Omar. It's possible that you can do what I'm doing. And what's necessary is that you've got to decide that not only is it possible, that it's necessary, that it's who you are, that you love to help people, that you were attracted to come here this evening because you and I are cut from the same cloth. We're branches of the same tree. And so in your heart of hearts, you've said, hey, if this guy can do it, he puts his pants on one leg at a time just like I do. If this guy can do it, he's got a story, he's gone through some stuff just like me. Then it's possible. But I've got to decide that is necessary. I've got to decide that this is who I am. I've got to decide that as much as I have chosen this path with my life, that I've been called to this life, that I have been chosen, and that it's me. George Bernard Shaw said, the people who make it in life and create a life that they love are people who take full responsibility for their lives. It's me. It's Omar, that man in the mirror that I see in the morning. It's Omar. And it's hard. And if I do what is easy, give myself a pass. If I do what is easy, come up with excuses of why I can't do it, it's hard. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard, Omar. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy, Omar. They'll pay you $25,000 an hour to come on stage and have fun like I do, Omar. So let us say together, Omar with me, let us say together, it's possible. It's possible. It's necessary. It's necessary. It's me. It's me. It's hard. It's hard. If I do what is easy, my life will be hard. If I do what is hard, my life will be easy. But here's the other step, Omar. It's worth it. Tonight, I want you to write down 5 reasons on why Omar will not stop. 5 reasons why Omar will finally have the courage to speak to those people that's waiting to hear Omar's voice. There's a tribe out there on other parts of the world. We're in a parking lot, remember? I was changing my shirt, and tell them what happened. A guy came up to me. Where were we?
We were in India. That was about
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was funny. You want to tell them why you were changing your shirt?
Go ahead and tell them.
So we kind of have this ritual where I kind of lay out Les's clothes, and I went downstairs to have breakfast with our team, and I had forgotten to put the belt out, okay? And so
I told them about the belt story in Fort Lauderdale.
No, this is a different belt story.
This
You didn't
is
tell
right.
them
This is
about
another belt story.
Okay.
So listen to this, yes.
So it's like Les spoke at 8:30 in the morning, and so we have this thing. Les, you got to be there. Come on, Les. Okay, you guys go downstairs. So I went downstairs to have breakfast, and we have 2 other people that travel with us from Malaysia, and all of a sudden, Les comes down, and he's holding his pants up. His shirt's in one hand, his T-shirt's on, his jacket's on, and we just look at him like, oh my God, where are you going like that? And what did you tell me?
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. He's like, I don't know where my belt is. And remember what happened to me. And so we got the belt, and so I said, listen, you've got to get dressed before we get there. You cannot show up because there's going to be thousands of people. So he says, don't worry about it, I'll do it. So we go, and we're in this parking lot. And anybody been to India? Okay, India is just like, there's 14 million people in New Delhi, okay? So people everywhere. So we go to the parking lot, and our team says, find that tree back there. Let's go far away from the building, because we don't want anybody to know Les Brown's here. So we open the doors of the car. So Les has his own little private dressing room, and he's putting his pants on, and someone sees Les, and they come running up. Mr. Brown, and here's Les putting his shirt on and putting his pants on and trying to put his belt on, and he's like, I don't care. You saved my life. You saved my life. You literally saved my life. And our team that kind of handles Les and people around him, the person's like, "Sir, Mr. Brown is just trying to get dressed." And in India, they have a way of shaking their head a little like this, and kind of like, how do you do it? Okay. Yeah.
You saved my life. You
And-
don't know what you mean to me.
Yeah.
They shake
We're
their
like,
head like
"Sir,
that.
sir, no." And he's like, "You saved my life. Yes, we've got to tell you. I can't let you go. I cannot let you go." And it didn't matter what after the astounding part that Les was basically out there in his underwear, after we stepped back from that, I recognized that really in this moment, it was somebody affirming the fact that there were words that were literally spoken. I mean, this was our first time in India, had never been there. But Les's presence had been there on YouTube. And these were a lot of things that were old YouTube things. And we all I particularly kind of stepped back and said, I don't know too many people in the world who somebody can walk up to and say, literally, it was because of what you said that saved my life, that allowed me to choose a different path when I thought I would commit suicide, when I thought my life was over and there was no hope. I saw one of your videos and I started to believe that there was a possibility of a different me. There was a possibility of what Catherine talks about, the fact that there's a power within yourself that's deeper and more extensive and more powerful. And when we connect specifically with the divine in us and the source of healing, we have the ability through our words to allow somebody literally to live.
And so, Omar, there are people that when you speak, they're going to come to you and say, that was for me. You saved my life. People on the other end of the world that you don't know. We were in a flea market in India, remember? We were in a flea market. And a person came up, must have been about 16 or 17. Oh, I know you. I saw you on YouTube. And I'm saying to you, one of the goals I have of training people how to become strategic experiential storytellers, how to strategically orchestrate an experience that will transform people individually and collectively. And there are people waiting. There's a tribe. That's Omar's tribe. And so Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. So you need to know what are 5 reasons and why you're not going to let those people down. 5 reasons on why you're not going to give up. 5 reasons on why you're going to stay on the path, that when the tough times come, and they're going to come, when there are times when you want to feel like it's hopeless and it's useless and nobody's listening, and that's going to happen. I used to sleep on the floor of my office in the Penobscot building in Detroit, Michigan, 21st floor. No one could have convinced me or the security guards who saw me and decided to look the other way that my willingness to bathe in the sink down the hall, my willingness to hide in the closet when the janitorial staff came in, that my willingness to continue to stay on this path, that I would build a multi-million-dollar corporation, that I would be able to change people's lives around the world. And there's something in you. Everybody here, I believe, that we're connected, that there's something in me that resonates with who they are in their heart of hearts, that says to them, I align myself with that kind of message, with that kind of energy. And that is something that's in me. There's some people, if we'd had rap singers here, they would be here. But then there are others who say, I've got this thing in me, this message in me that I'm supposed to share. And I used to be one of those people who showed up in an audience for 14 years listening to Wayne Dyer, listening to Robert Schuller, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. I was among the audience that went to all these seminars and workshops, that purchased all these books. And Mike Williams said to me, Brownie, the reason you do this is because it's who you are. There is a point in life, I think, when I look at my life, and I don't know, I can't believe where the time has gone. I can't believe that I'm in my 70th year on the planet. That I had no idea. Thank you. And you should have seen me preparing to come down here to cover all the grade. You should have seen, because homie don't play great. You know what I mean? Homie don't play that. You know, I have no shame in my game at all. There is no shame. There is no shame. Let me tell you, everybody knows this, and Dr. Marie knows this. I gave this speech, and so it was in the Georgia Dome. If you like a copy of it, I'll send it all to you. All right, you're going to need a paintbrush, my brother. I want you to know that. You're going to need a... I had to speak for the Georgia Dome, and the speech call is not over till I win, to 80,000 people. So at the end of the presentation, I was backstage, somebody from the Department of Commerce, their speaker canceled. And they said, Mr. Brown, do you have enough energy to give another speech? And I said, no, I'm tired. They said, we can pay you a full fee of $25,000. I said, the Lord is able. So they took me over to the Georgia World Congress Center. I looked in the room, people were very close to the stage. I said, excuse me just a moment. I went in the restroom and I got my mascara out because I have an allergic reaction to dye. So I use mascara to cover my gray, and it gives me flexibility of senior citizens, then I let the gray show. Whatever, anyhow. So I went and I got what, put it in. So the lady wanted everybody to know that she knew me. She said, there he is, Les Brown. I came up on stage, she kissed me on the cheek, I kissed her on the cheek, and left this big black smudge on her face. I didn't know what to say, Bree, so I just sat down, all right? So people down in front started saying, there's something on your face. So she looks at me, she said, what are they saying? I said, I don't know. So then finally one nosy lady came down there, opened up her purse, gave her a mirror. Now nobody asked her to do that. Getting in the Kool-Aid, don't know the flavor. All right? She looks, sees the big black smudge on her face, looks at me, said, how did this get here? I said, I don't know. You think maybe this rubs off? I now use waterproof Mademoiselle, all right? So sometimes a brother's got to do what he's got to do, all right? How did I get on that? How did we get over there? How did we segue over there? Omar. All right, so write down your 5 reasons, Omar, of why you're not going to give up on your dream. And Omar, after this alone, you just say, he's got to have some strong self-esteem. But Omar, I had no idea when I was doing these meetings in Liberty City. They had programs on television about Liberty City, about how crime infested it is. That from those meetings, just like this, I went from doing 5 people to within 6 months, had over 3,000 people within 6 months. And then I trained someone to take over, and I said, I want to see, can I do this on a global level? I said, I need to test myself. I need to know that what I'm doing is not just lip service. I need to test myself. I need to be on stage with Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and Zig Ziglar and Wayne Dyer. I need to challenge myself to do that. And I remember when I opened for Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, that the newspaper read the next morning, the grand old master and the young rising star. Now, I'm the grand old master. I can't believe it. Yes, yes. How you doing, Jim?
We've known each other 29 years. I've seen you when you started as a
Yes, you did.
I've seen you all the way up here at the pinnacle where you live today. The thing that delivery. The thing that gives you your strength, I think, is that your spirit gives us hope. Above and beyond everything else about you, you represent hope. Is that your observation? And if so, I know you've reflected on this. How do you cultivate that?
Now, first of all, for Jim to be here, Jim is in the National Speakers Hall of Fame. Jim and I, we were on the same shuttle together when we were being recognized. I mean, our careers go back, how many years ago? 1985. And so he saw me before I did all of this. I had no idea that this Les Brown existed. I'm saying to you, there's somebody else back there other than you. There's somebody else. The person who's hand and say, you have something special? Trust me, that's real. I believe what it does is when people hear my story, the way that I tell it, that they say to themselves, if he can do it, I can do it. And one of the things when I'm working with speakers, that's why I say that, and it's true, people do not bring us in for the content. We have, and Dr. Julie, she developed this concept and training on it. We have an energy signature that allows us to impact people, to distract, dispute, and inspire, to distract them from their current story through the strategic execution and delivery of our story or other stories. We dismantle their limited belief system and inspire them, as Mother Teresa would say, to become a pencil in the hand of God and start writing a new chapter with their lives. And that's what that is what you do. And so, and people in this room. And so I believe that is what we do, that people, we give them hope, because when there's hope in the future, it gives you power in the present. Yes, ma'am. So what are you afraid of? Okay, so what's the basis of the fear? If you don't know, you got to have a basis for the fear. So what is it?
I think probably when I was growing up, if I got attention, it was I was in trouble, I was going to get spanking, and so I equate being out in the limelight or people knowing me as something negative.
Now, let me pause right there. Remember, I asked her, I said, what are you afraid of? She said, I don't know. I said, okay, we got that. But if you had some idea, what would it be? Then she told us the story. You hear the story? How we live our lives is a result of the story. So you can write a new story. Mr. Washington interrupted my story. Young man, work this problem out. I can't do that, sir. Why not? I'm not one of your students. Look at me. Yes, sir. Work the problem out anyhow. I can't, sir. And the other students started taunting, saying, he's Leslie. He's DT. He's a twin. His brother's smart. What's DT? He's a dumb twin. And the students laughed. And I said, I am, sir. And he came from behind his desk and he said, don't ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. He distracted me from the story that I believed about myself up to that point. You see? And so right now, you have the power of that story looking you in the face. And as you face the reality of the truth that you are special, that now will set you free from playing small and allow you to begin to play a bigger game. Everybody, what is your name? Chris? Stand up, Chris. Everybody, hold your hands toward Chris lovingly. Chris. There's somebody back there. She's ready to come out. She's ready to play a bigger game. She deserves to be seen. She's talented. She's gifted. And we're looking at her. Bring your greatness out. Give her a round of applause. Fantastic. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, and then the young lady. Yes, sir. Yes.
As you reflect upon all your beliefs, empowering beliefs, you're serving others, what do you do to recharge, re-energize, refuel,
with the things that I do to recharge, refuel, this is an energizer right here, that you have to have people in your life who can see what you can't see. I don't have a college degree, but I don't have dummies around me. I have brilliant people around me, PhD, MBA, all right? And so you want to have people around you who can speak to you, who can empower you, that you can learn from, that you can grow from. So I'm learning constantly. I say, explain this to me. And most people won't. Most men would not ask a female to explain that to me, please, or somebody on my level to say publicly that there's somebody that you're learning from. I'm still growing. I'm still developing. I'm like the lady who said, Lord, I ain't what I want to be, ain't what I'm going to be, but thank God I sure ain't what I was. And I think that humility, that being transparent, connects you to people, that people say, whoa, I can identify with that. And so the people in my life, I learn from and I grow from. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough out of Atlanta said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. And so I learn from the people around me. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go to you, just 1 second. Have a seat for a second, because I think this might be very great to do.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. So one of the things that I'd like to go back to your question. Les, you've dealt with the little C, as you like to call it, for over 19 years, okay? And I think that what might be really helpful is to kind of to draw the veil back, because this is about healing and the dynamic laws of healing. And when you look at your own experiences, because I think it's very true what we say, there are a lot of people who faced cancer in their lives. And you, as you say, cancer is one of the most dreaded words in the English language. If we were talking to someone about the journey through that experience for you, what has been the most terrifying moment in your life that you faced in this journey? And what fear did you have to confront in your own life and rewrite the belief around?
The greatest fear, oddly enough, was the other day, because I had a new pain that I'd never had before. And I said, I've never felt this in my body before. All before then, up until that moment, I had practiced of always seeing myself on the other side. And I want everybody to, if you ever face with something, there's something, it's a trick that I do with myself. I always see myself on the other side of that, project myself in the future, and I say, wow, that worked out good. I always see myself on the other side. For a moment the other day, because the pain was so severe, it clouded my mind. I could not see myself for the first time on the other side. That's what I said to you. For the first time, I'm scared that this has frightened me, because I have not been able to see what I've always been able to see in the past. Then, distract, dispute, when we went to talk to Dr. Monk, and I felt comfort in the things that were said with what was the first surgeon?
The neurosurgeon.
The neurosurgeon. When the neurosurgeon spoke, but he affirmed what you said, and beliefs are formed through information and through experiences. And so through the information that I got from you and from the neurosurgeon, then all of the other things that I have been working on kicked in for me. And it tilted the scale back and gave me my power back. But I had that pain that was across the board, across my back. I had never experienced that. So that was the most frightening. And so I came through it. I was listening for something that will give me some information that says, you got your power back in this, because that's the first time that I thought I lost my power.
And for many people, I think your question is so relevant, because when we ask ourselves, regardless of what the experience we're healing ourselves through, you're talking here about something physical, but some of us have experiences in which we've lost our power, which have nothing to do with the physical body. Maybe it was an experience you had as a child. Maybe it was an experience you had in relationship with another person. Maybe it was an accident, or maybe you were a victim to someone else's anger or someone else's behavior. But I think your question is so powerful because of these experiences that we have, Les, we put either a period or a comma in our lives. And that period or a comma, you talk about it in a lot of your work as being parked. There are things that can happen in your life that you become parked around. And so when you think about healing through some of the experiences in your own life, you've had the experience of loss of your mother, which was a big experience, followed by the death of your best friend, Boo. Okay?
Yes.
And when you think of someone who's going through an experience of loss, where it's not their physical body, but it's an emotional, traumatic moment that they have to heal through. They have to move, well, they don't have to move through, but they have the opportunity to. What, from your own experience in the formation of beliefs, would be the 3 things that you've used in your own life that have allowed you to move on from those experiences?
Well, just keep in mind, I was going through the experience of going through a divorce from someone that I loved very much, going through the experience of losing my best friend, through waiting on a liver transplant, and going through the experience of losing my mother. All 3 of those things. And then, on top of that, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. In fact, I know the night it happened.
What do you mean by that?
I knew you were going to ask me that question. I prayed one night with such a passion. I said, God, please don't take my mother. Give it to me. I'm young. I'm strong. Give it to me. I'll die for her. Please don't take her. I felt that at the cellular level. I wanted it. I wanted to die before her, because I didn't think I could handle watching her die. And for this woman who adopted us, who didn't carry us in her womb for 9 months, who said, I'll take him, and was always there for me. And there was this thing that's got her, that the money that I had couldn't save her, that all of the notoriety that I'd gained, I had nothing that I could do to pull her back from that. And so I wanted to die. I wanted to take it on myself. And I took it on. I never forget, Mama had a great sense of humor. After she'd passed, I had this dream where she came to me in a dream. And she said, well, baby, you said you missed me very much. Look like I'm about to see you real soon. I woke up real quick and said, I'm not ready now. I said, not now, Mama, not now. But that was, I knew. I felt it. And so I spoke it, and it happened.
And looking back at that, what opportunities do you feel that you're acting on now to heal that and move past that? And what would you say to someone who may have had a significant emotional experience and they need to move past that?
It's very important, because in my situation, it's one of the things, how many of you are interested in speaking? Raise your hands. Interested in professional speaking? Good. Trust me on this. You better rethink that. Because stuff's going to happen that you can't even imagine. Life's going to give you some stuff to talk about. I can tell you. Because, and you know the full story. Now just imagine this. Now I'm adopted. So all of my life, Thanksgiving time, Christmas time, our birthday, when Wesley and I would go back home to celebrate our birthday with Mama, our godmother would be there. Her name is Marge Dale. We always suspected her to be our mother. But she said no. We approached her individually and collectively. She said no. And so then I would take her out to lunch or dinner, and I would watch her eat something. I'd take a plastic container, and then I would take a fork, I'd distract her, and take it to somebody to check and see. Can they find out genetically? When Roots, the movie Roots, was on, so they'd say, you can find your family. And so these guys kept saying, give us another $500 and we, get her something else. And so I went to her house and went through her, said, can I use the restroom, please? And I would use tissues, anything, at the bathroom. So in December, she said 2 years ago to my foster sister, Linda, I'm Leslie and Wesley's birth mother. So so Linda called me, as you know, and said, Miss March said that she's your birth mother. So I was angry. So I said, Linda, ask her who our father is. So she said she wants to talk to you. I said, I don't want to talk to her. I'm not in a good place to do that. So I called Wesley. So Wesley called her, and he started talking to her on a regular basis. He was not angry. I said, Wesley, ask her who our father is. I'd like to know that. So he said, I don't care. I said, but I know, but I want to know who is our father. So he said she wants to talk to you, and she'll tell you, but she won't tell me. So I said, I'm not in a good place. How many of you know when you're not in a good place to talk with somebody? I said, she's lied all these years. She's been around seeing us. She's never done anything for us all these years. I said, I'm not in a good place. So finally I said, okay, Wesley, talk to me about forgiveness. I said, you talk about let go or be dragged. You're letting this drag you down. I said, okay. I said, our birthday is coming up, February the 17th. I'll fly you in on the 16th, and we'll confront her on the 17th to tell the truth, to dispel the lie that she's been holding on to. And he said, okay. She died on the 16th.
So how have you forgiven yourself about that?
I don't know if I have. One of the things I said that forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is remembering without anger. And so I have not forgiven myself for that. I wish I had been big enough in spirit and in character like Wesley and forgiven her, because we could have gone in earlier, or we could have had three-way conversations. And so because of my smallness in my thinking, I deprive us from having a conversation with her as mother and son. And I saw that I was being inconsiderate. What would have been like for her. What was it like for her to see me living this life and she making a pledge to Mamie Brown, I will never tell them who I am. What was it like for her to see me on television, public events? This has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. It was like I was doing a jab at her. But what was it like to honor her commitment that I will never tell them who I am? Just you take good care of them and don't separate them. And that was the two things that she swore. That one, she would not separate us. She would take good care of us. Two, she would not separate us. And three, she would not tell us that she was our birth mother. So that's why I said we might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us. That I've been working with that.
Yeah, and I think all of us have opportunities and situations in our own lives where something strongly emotional has happened to us, where there was a before and there's an after. And I think part of the healing process that we have when we, first of all, I just need to talk to you about your authenticity and your willingness to share that with this group. I mean, that's not a little thing.
Y'all can do better than that. Come on now.
It's not a little thing. And it speaks to who you are as a person in your transparency. One of the things that you talked about is, you know, one of the things that you give people is hope. But I think the other thing that you really give people is many people never talk when they talk about, as speakers, they never expose, you know, what happened to me? What were some of the real challenges in my life that I had to get through? You know, somebody called me stupid. Someone called me the dumb twin, you know. You have, as a speaker and as a human being, a unique ability to laugh at yourself in the midst of things that have happened that most people don't laugh at. And to take parts of your life that have been almost very painful parts of your life and put them out there and allow not only your experience to become an audience's experience, but in the telling of that experience. And I think that's what great speakers do and great writers do, and people who, like yourself, who are here. When you tell your story, there's something in the telling of an authentic story that exposes it to compassionate listening. And in the experience of compassionate listening, we get a glimpse of ourself in the telling of that story. We get a glimpse of the times when we've hung on to things that we have an opportunity to let go of, as Catherine talks about. We have an opportunity to bring it out here and say, you know, as a human being, we're all human. I still have the ability to grow through this. I still have the ability to do work on myself. I'm not a perfect human being. I'm human. And and to you as an audience, in the way you held Les as you listened to him and you shared that experience, the compassion in your eyes and in your spirits allowed this moment to happen, which has never really even happened before. So thank you for who you are.
I had a very intimate moment with Reverend Maureen because she had been reaching out to me and she had not heard from me. Whenever she calls and she says, "Jump," I ask how high. So she figures something must be wrong. I haven't heard from him. And so then she started hearing that I was real sick and I had gone through some tough times. Then she heard that I was dying, you know. And so she said, "I'm so glad you didn't die." I said, "Me too." There we are. We have such a very close, beautiful relationship. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to come here and to speak and also to have the opportunity for people to hear Dr. Julie, because there are several situations that because of her trained eye, and because that person spoke to her and said, you can be anything you want to be, that literally saved my life because she had a trained eye. And I was in a meeting, and she was observing me. And in that meeting, I think my eyes must have fluttered or something, but she'd been watching my behavior. And she said, you need angioplasty. And I said, what's that? Well, they go through your groin, and if they find any blockage, they remove it. And I said, what's the downside? So you die. I said, well, no, I'm not doing that. And so she convinced a friend of hers to look at me, and this cardiologist. And so I resisted all of the way. No, I don't need this. Then she played the child card, had my oldest son call me and said, Dad, if you want to see your great-grandchildren, Dr. Julie said, you need to have this done. She's a medical doctor, she's a medical scientist, but she says her intuition is saying you need to do this. And I said, I'm in good shape. I'd convinced the cardiologist that I didn't need it because I usually do 142 push-ups on stage. And so finally, after 2.5 hours, I said, okay. And then I went to Ohio State University. The next morning, they had already prepared for me. Calvin had convinced her that he can convince me to go. And so the guy said, this won't take long. He's an intervention cardiologist, really special, a specialist in this area. He said, we'll go through your left hand because it's closer to the heart. It'll take less than 30 minutes. I woke up 3.5 hours later, but I was unconscious. But she saw what was going on. What did you see? You take over from there.
Well, you know, angioplasty, if anybody has seen it or gone through it, is you should see when they shoot dye, basically, the vessels, it shows the heart, and if somebody doesn't need their a balloon stent or intervention, the dye allows all the vessels in the heart to show the pathway that they're taking. And we didn't see, it looked like a bead of strings. We didn't see a lot of your heart, basically. And so the short story of this is that Les ended up with 3 stents that day and rested.
Then had to come back.
He had to come back because he had too much dye.
Yes, and then had to have 2 more stents. That I had some areas from my primary artery areas, over 90% blockage. That I could have just gone. He said, I remember when I woke up during the process, he said, you and what's the news guy? Tim
Russert.
He said, you're in Tim Russert territory. I said, what does that mean? He said, you can die at any moment from a heart attack. He says, don't move. Stay still. Don't move. And I said, whoa. I mean, I've had so many things. But it's also affirmation that I think that when you are doing the work that you're supposed to do, that I believe in angels. That what are the chances of her watching, observing me, and saying, without her scientific work of examining me and saying her intuition says, you need this. And I have it, and it saved my life. You know, what a chance. So I say that there are some of you, when you speak, somebody's going to decide to go back to med school. Somebody, when you speak, is going to decide to open up some business idea or concept that they have. I have, everybody let us say together, special moments. How many speakers here, people desire speaking? Raise your hands, please. We're part of doing what I do in speaking is create special moments to make a point. And there's a strategic message that we do. How many have ever seen me do live full, die empty? Raise your hands, please. How many have not seen it? Raise your hands. Very good. Well, when I did this presentation and I worked to do this, Denzel Washington was in the audience at Los Angeles Church, and he decided that he was not just going to play good guy roles. As a result of me doing this segment in my presentation, he decided that he was going to be versatile. Thank you so much. And he was going to be more flexible in the kind of roles that he would take on. And you have the ability to impact people like that in the course of your presentation, because my goal is, and I want to write this down as speakers or presenters, the goal is to change how people think, how they feel, and what they do. As a result, your goal is to change how they think, how they feel. Do you want them to feel more confident? And what they do, that they want them to make different choices after they've been in your presence. And so, and the reason you use your story is that you use your story strategically. You become a 4-color brochure. I don't have a brochure now to this day, and I get over 3,000 requests a year. The average speaker in the National Speakers Association, how many would you say the average speaker would get? Less than 100, yes. And so the value of learning how to tell your story strategically is very important, because that's how, because I didn't have the money of a Gunther Rinker to invest in me like they did with a Tony Robbins to have an infomercial. So all I had was my story. And so Mike Williams, my mentor, and who taught me how to become strategic and experiential so that you can go global and earn 7 figures and be in high demand because of how you deliver a message. But most importantly, write this down, impact drives income. That when you make impact on people's lives, that will drive the income that you're able to generate. That impact will cause people to leave your presence feeling better about themselves, but talking about you. And so when I'm talking to a group and I want to change their behavior or impact them and to cause them to make some new changes that they perhaps have been putting off, I would use, there's a section of the presentation that I call a special moment that creates the moment where the audience say, whoa, because if you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. However, if you know how to communicate strategically, you know how to create the thirst where they want to drink. And so when I train you as a speaker, I teach you how to be strategic with a story. Your story is someone else's story, or an example that the audience now, as a result of that experience, will make a new choice with their lives to do something different. Case in point. And then I'm going to do that. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Marion Jones. First of all, thank you for sharing your story, for being transparent, and for sharing a portion of your evening with us tonight. I actually just wanted to know, I know both of you have spoken about the profound impact that mentors have had in your life. So what advice or suggestions do you have for those of us that are seeking mentors? How do we connect with them? And how, I would like to know just some information about your own connections with your mentors and how they became a part of your life.
I suggest that you want to find a mentor who's doing what it is you want to do and have a track record of achievement. I see a lot of people who are getting paid to help people to brand themselves, and they're not known. What would you say?
I'd say there's a difference between a coach and a mentor, okay? And I think it's important to know the difference. Both of us use coaches. I mean, we both have coaches that we see regularly in different areas of our lives. And so a coach is somebody who can allow you to grow into a part of yourself that you could never get to, very much like a coach on a sports team or something else. And so when I talk to the coach that I'm working with now, who is actually Les's coach, you know, he will challenge me to show up differently, and he dismantles the excuses that I have for mediocrity in areas of my life. And when you're in the picture, you can't see the frame. So you're too close to your own stuff. And what I think Mike does for both of us is he challenges that frame, and he allows us to look at our life differently from the outside in instead of from the inside out. So I think what Les said is very true. If you want to find someone who is doing something, when I decided to become a physician, I was already 28. I had very few physicians. Nobody in my family was a physician. Nobody that I knew close to me was a physician. And so I had to decide that I was going to put myself outside of my comfort zone and go in places where those people were, where I was going to establish relationships. Now, this was not a mentor. These were, first of all, just professional friendships, places, professional associations, meetings, where I would say to someone, tell me how you got into medical school. Tell me some of the things that I need to learn. What are some of the things that I need to do? What are classes that I need to take? I was a mother at that time of a small child. How will I make it through medical school? I have a 4-year-old now. What are some of the things that I'm going to need? So that's the value of professional relationships, and the value also of getting, and then I worked with somebody in a medical school who said, okay, Julie, these are the things that you need to do. And Les does that for speakers, you know, coaching. Mentoring is something quite different. A mentor is somebody who finds you most of the time. It's somebody who sees something in you that you can't see in yourself. And a lot of times, the mentor, one of the most profound mentors in my life, was someone that was in my PhD program. Now, I never knew that he would be a mentor. He was on the advisor. He was on one of my advisors for my PhD program. But he would do things to me like, you've got to be in this lab and work a whole year. And I'm like, what? You know? He saw something in me, and he would challenge me both personally and professionally to show up in a different way. There are mentoring associations. We were reading this month's Esquire magazine. Did anybody read that magazine? Okay, it's an excellent journal this month in which they're talking about mentoring and professional associations where people have established different associations in different areas, from sports to education to health to business, in which they pair you with someone who says, hey, I'm willing to take somebody under my wing, to tell them what I don't know, to walk with them over a period of time. So I think a mentor in my life, the person who mentored me, was in my life for years. It was not somebody I paid, but someone that was in my circle who saw something in me. And the thing that I had to be willing to do is what Les did here on stage, which was to be very humble, to recognize what I didn't know, to be willing to listen to what they had to say, very much like I would a coach. But I think the difference for me was they went personally as well as professionally and saw in me and pushed me to heights that I couldn't have gone by myself. I think many times that relationship happens when someone says, give me a mentor. Many times you're talking about a coach. But if you're lucky enough to establish a relationship with somebody who goes the extra mile, who doesn't just coach you, who says, I'm not going to stop until you become this kind of person. I think the major characteristic in my own mentor was that he was able to see something in me that could go places that he didn't go. There was something about my own gift and my own brilliance and my personality that, I don't know how to say this, he wasn't afraid of. He recognized that by pushing and coaching me. I mean, even your mentor is not a speaker.
Yes. This were not for Mike Williams, I can tell you, you would not know this Les Brown. But I also pay him as well. Mm-hmm. But he was able to introduce me to a part of myself that I rejected for 14 years. I just could not see how, Mike, you talked about me competing with people with PhDs and MBAs, years of experience at corporations. Somebody in that time I wanted $1,000 an hour. Somebody's going to pay me $1,000 an hour to teach them how to do something I've never done? I said, come on, be practical and be realistic. And he said, Les, if you want to become successful, if you want to make a global impact, you've got to learn to be unreasonable. He said, reasonable thinking people believe man couldn't fly because if God wanted man to fly, he'd have given him what? Wings. He said, you're being practical and realistic. He said, I'm asking you to become unreasonable when you look at your life and look at the possibilities. And so as a result of that, because of his vision, I asked him, I interviewed him on CBS radio here, and I asked him, I think about a year ago, what made you continue to call me and to say to me that I could do and be who I'm being now? And he said, I just felt it was my duty to stay in your ear. You know, and so I take this on as a mission. Like when you sent me a letter, and when I read your letter, there's a spirit that I picked up from you that reminded me of my relationship with Mike. But more importantly, the conversation that you had with yourself in the letter, that I said, she's the one. That I tell this story that Mr. Washington, everybody, speakers, I want you to write this down. Never make a point without a story, and never tell a story without a point. Never make a point without a story, and never tell a story without a point. So, ladies and gentlemen, one day I was walking down the hall, and I heard this voice. It was at the senior graduation at Booker T. Washington High School. And I heard this voice, and it was familiar to me. And I stepped inside, even though I wasn't supposed to be there. And Mr. Washington was addressing the graduating seniors. And he said to them, he said, my being brought here from Bradenton, Florida, will not be in vain if just one of you understand that you got something special, that you have greatness within you. If just one of you understand that you can make your school proud, that you can make your parents proud. Just one of you just get the vision of what I've been saying to you, then my being brought here would not have been in vain. And I admired him, and he was so powerful in his elocution, and he got a standing ovation, and he went down the auditorium steps, and I came behind him. I said, Mr. Washington. I said, do you remember me, sir? He says, no. I said, my name is Leslie. I've got a twin brother, Wesley. My mother, she works in the cafeteria. You asked me to do something, to work a problem out. I told you I couldn't do it, and you insisted, and the kid said I was DT, the dumb twin. I said, do you remember me now? You said that someone's opinion of me does not have to become my reality. Oh, yes. Yes, I do remember you. Sir, you were speaking in the auditorium. What were you doing there? You're not a senior. You're a junior. I know, sir. But when I was walking down the hall, I heard your voice, and I felt like you were talking to me. I said, you said that if just one student there could understand what you are talking about in terms of specialness and greatness, that you're being brought here would not have been in vain into Overtown in this drug-infested area. He said, yes. Sir, you said that if we understood what you're saying, if just one person, that we could make our school proud, we can make our parents proud. He said, yes. I said, sir, I want to make my mother proud. Can I do that? He said, it's possible, Mr. Brown. And he turned to walk away, and I said, Mr. Washington? He said, yes, what is it now? Sir, you said if just one person here really got what you said and felt it in their heart, they could change the world. He said, yes. I said, sir, I'm the one, sir. I'm the one. They call me DT, but I always say I'm Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. One day, sir, you're going to hear my voice. I'm the one, sir. And years later, when I was on PBS, I had some friends call him and said, Washington, turn on television. You won't believe it. And his wife, Edith, said, he said, Edith, come look. It's the dumb twin. And he called me in Detroit. He said, may I speak to Mr. Brown, please? I said, who's calling? He said, you know who this is. I said, yes, sir. How you doing, Mr. Washington? He said, you were the one, weren't you? I said, yes, sir. He said, but you were so crazy. I said, I know, but I'm rich now. Yeah. So the thing is that when I read your letter, I could hear you in my ears. And I said, you are the one, yes. But it's this thing called life. You just, the people that resonate with your spirit. So I felt the drive and hunger. I would not let him go. I spoke at his funeral. And I sat at an angle to look at his son, to look at his sons and his daughters. And all I could think about is that they didn't see who I saw. They didn't know the man that I knew. Isn't it interesting how you can, even my brothers and sisters, they did not know the Mamie Brown that I knew. It's interesting how kids can be in the same house, same circumstances, same parents, and have a different kind of experience. How many of you know that can be real, you know? Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
I think
Yeah.
it's interesting, Les, just to pause for a moment and look at the special moment he just created there. You know, where you saw the young Les Brown on stage, you saw the conversation with Mr. Washington, and what were some of the emotions that you experienced as you heard that story? Anybody care to share that? Happiness. What else? Pardon? Courage. Anything else? Thank you. Excitement. Possibility. Tenacity. Humbleness. Overcoming the hesitation. Mr. Washington, I'm the one, to be heard, that his voice mattered. And then some of you, did anybody feel like they were teary? Yeah, what part of you, what were the tears? How did they, what did they represent for you as you felt that? Yes.
The moment of self-realization, acceptance of who I was, really, yes.
Anybody else? What did it speak to for you?
Well, you talk about how we tell ourselves, we can hold back ourselves from self-doubt or whatever, but there's sometimes people in our lives that keep holding us back from their fear. Like you said, they called you DT, but because of that one comment, you could repel all of those other voices somehow. And that's, I think it holds a lot of us back, not only ourselves, but the people, maybe a spouse or somebody who's afraid of our success or something, and that could make us even sick.
Mm-hmm. So it spoke to that sense in yourself that it doesn't matter, and there was almost a freeing of seeing yourself or someone you know in that story. Anyone else? Yes.
What I saw was connection with authentic self. I've listened to so many of you on YouTube, and I've heard like so many of the stories that you've told again and again tonight. I'm like, wow, I'm hearing it again live in person, but it's still authentic. There's still a connection. It's still so very real, like I heard it the first time. And it doesn't matter.
That is major what you just said. Now, that is major. And the reason I'm saying that's major, are you interested in speaking?
My name is Joshua Ray. I'm an actor, I'm a voiceover artist, and I'm a healthy lifestyle coach.
Yes.
My intention is to have an Oscar to win the equivalent in voiceovers. I actually had a question
Good. I see you're ready, too. The reason I said that is that
I'll come back to your
speakers-
question,
I'm
Jim.
going to come back to your question, but I want to say that speakers, because you tell your story, and you've heard it a lot of times, there are people in the audience who are hearing it for the first time. So you've got to tell it like you're telling it for the first time. So I will never run through it. When James Brown was alive and he used to do this song, Please, 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 because he had been doing it so long, he would say, please, 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 baby, please don't go. That was not the original James Brown. The original James Brown, he dropped down on his knees. They brought the cape out. Please, please. He would get ugly for you. And so it is, but when I coach speakers, I tell them about creating that special moments and to go back there emotionally and experience the experience. You have a question that I'm going to
Well, there was a
moment.
comment. Let's just close up this. But I think that let's deal with what people felt first, and then I'll move on. Yes.
Well, I've heard it said once that when you hear somebody say something that really resonates from within you, that's when you have that emotional release, and it was almost as if the story that Mr. Brown was sharing, it was just something that kind of was stirred up inside of me, even though I don't quite know what exactly that feeling was, but it's something that resonates within me and something that was brought up because of the story.
And that's huge, because what you said, that word is, what she said is, when there's someone who speaks a truth that is your truth, there's something that is often stirred up inside of yourself that there becomes an emotional release. You're not sure sometimes why you're even responding to it, but there is some truth in the telling of that story or in that moment that you connect to, and you release it at that time. Please.
And when you shared your story, that was exactly what I connected to. And that was the first thing that really got me to release a lot of those feelings, was because I recognized your story, because it's very much like my own story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's the power of story. I'm going to go to your comment, and then we'll go to some more questions. Yes.
Thank you. When you share so much from your heart and your spirit, when it speaks through you, I can feel that connection for me personally through Source. So when you put yourself in those vulnerable moments and you take us through you as a child, it connects to that child within, and how you speak, I definitely was moved through that, and I was living through you. You took me along through the journey. And when you speak and say things like, I'm the one, then it just, I think on such a deep energetic level, how you speak, what you put out there, you can really shift people to action simply by putting out your heart and that authenticity. And it just
Yes, because the goal and objective, I wanted to be able to not just give just think positive and be enthusiastic and everything going to be all right. I was looking for a way, how can I stand out in the marketplace and speak for my truth? But most importantly, how can I change lives? And that's how I train you, how to change lives. I wanted to know, I could not do this work if I could not change lives. And I want to know, is it possible for me to speak to someone and to impact their mind, their heart, and their spirit on those three dimensions, and as a result, create a shift in their mindset. And they are different because of the experience. Because at the end of the day, a lot of speakers, they believe that information, if you just provide the information for them, if information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. So it's not the information. You have to navigate and orchestrate an experience. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it could never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And I tell you, this trip, going to Hong Kong, we had 10 different Asian countries in the room. And I had to speak through an interpreters. It was an experience.
It was an experience, and people did resonate, and they saw your heart and they saw, you know, people were moved to tears, and they changed in that moment. We're wanting to be respectful of the time. Reverend Maureen is telling me it's time for us to wrap up. I just want to take 2 brief questions because I said I'd take
Thank
your
you for
question.
throwing her under the bus. That's very good.
Well, you know, everyone, time is a
I
reality.
know, baby. I know.
Yes.
I know. Yeah.
So you had a question, and there was a question over here and one here. Yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
As I said, I'm a voiceover artist, actor, and a healthy lifestyle coach. And you both have achieved so much in life. Thank you again for speaking tonight. How do you manage, do you have any suggestions or tips on how to manage achieving multiple large goals?
You do the research, and there are a lot of books out here. There are a lot of people who are conducting seminars and workshops. I still go to seminars and workshops. I still invest in myself because it's the most important investment that I can make. But one of the great things about Google University, anything you want to find out, it's on Google. And that's the easy part, learning how to manage it and how to put it all together. And I say, do that which is your strength, and find someone else to do that part that's not your strength. Okay?
And I would also say to that is that if it doesn't scare you, you know, when you're talking about several large goals, I mean, we have goals as a couple, we have goals individually, we have goals for our business. One of the major, I mean, we have several goals that we do simultaneously. I think the first thing is to know what your strengths are, and number 2, what's at risk if it doesn't get done. I mean, if it really means something to you. I mean, when I went after medicine, which was a goal several years ago, I had to look in the future and say, could I see myself at 80, 90 and not having this done in my life? And it was so important to me that no matter what was happening in my life, I said, I have to make this work. And then when I achieved that, I had to say, what's the next big goal for myself? And goals at the same time. So I say find them, write them down, visualize, see them done, get help in the areas that you're weak. One of the things both of us do is, what new skills have we learned? A goal is based on skills that you learn and you reinvent yourself into. So we're always saying, what skill did we learn this month that we didn't have last month? What knowledge did we have this month that we didn't have last month? And what action steps did we both do and fail to do that allowed us to pursue a different reality in relationship to our life and the goals that we want to have done? And clearly one of the biggest goals is to continue to reinvent ourselves. Thank you.
The development, yes, you have somebody else.
Yes. You
Yes,
had a
sir, right
question?
here.
Yes, and we've got to go. Yes. Yes,
Yes.
sir. What is your name? Yes, sir. Carol, Mr. Brown.
Just curious, I've been told that the road to success is a very emotional road. Darren already speaks about discipline, learning how to discipline your emotions. So do you guys have any tips on how to discipline your emotion while going through the road to success?
Darren said, I know Darren very well, and I've read his book, and Darren's a very bright guy. It's discipline, it's dedication, it's determination. You're going to experience emotions in everything that you do. And so it's a part of the process. It goes with the territory. Just find something, hopefully, that you love. Don't do it just for the money. Find something you love that you can make some money too, so that when the tough times come, and they're going to come, it's a part of the process, that you'll be able to weather the storms. Say, I love this. I was born to do this. I told my children, if they said that I died, don't bury me for 3 days. 3rd day, drop a microphone in the casket. If I don't grab it and say, you got to be hungry, say, Dad's gone now. He's out of here. He's gone now. He's gone. If I don't grab it and say, whatever.
I just say also that managing your emotion is a skill and it's a muscle. And one of the best books, he's not here anymore, but he was a brilliant psychiatrist, is a guy named David Viscott.
Yes.
And he has a book called Emotional Resilience. And the one thing that I would say in the pursuit of any big goal is resilience is a muscle and is a skill that you build by working on it.
Yes.
And so work on yourself. Both of us, I mean, 10 to 15, we're always reading at least 3 to 5 books ourselves, and we talk about it with each other. And that's important. And then, you know, just even like we did on stage, you know, what are some of the things that you grow through? What are some of the things that we still have an opportunity to forgive ourselves and allow ourselves to find this? Find someone else who can see in your life the things that you can't see, and be willing to do the work where they say this is an opportunity for you to grow. And that will push you there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hi, thank you. My question is about young people. Being a young person myself, and for anyone here known who's young and who they care about, what would be your wisdom on how young people can approach their lives too?
Today, it is, today, being a young person, when I was a kid, what separated adults from kids was access to information. How many of you remember that time? That day is gone now. Access to information. Today, young people have the opportunity to get started in life sooner. And I think it's very important they embrace a quote that I heard by Bishop T.D. Jakes: Lord, don't let my talents take me where my character can't keep me. Don't let my talents take me where my character can't keep me. Because if your achievements and things that you accomplish is beyond your own sense of self-worth, you will unconsciously engage in self-destructive behavior. Justin Bieber, very good example. You know, that you've got to be grounded mentally and emotionally and spiritually to handle the stuff that's being thrown at you. And my show that was canceled, and I look back, I'm glad it was canceled, because I really was not ready at that time. They said, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. Because of where I was in my life, it would not have been a good thing, because of what I was going through with my mother dying of breast cancer, my best friend going through a divorce, my being diagnosed with prostate cancer. It would not have been a good thing. I never forget this doctor, he said, in order for you to beat this, it's going to take everything in you. And he was right. And so, to me, to young people today, the opportunity to have a vision of yourself in 3 areas: personal, what is it you want to do personally to make a difference in the world? And that's what I'm doing with my son, John Leslie, and my other kids. The other thing is, who is it you have to be in order to do that? What radical change will you have to make in your behavior? Because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. And who are the relationships you need to develop that can help you get there? Relationships are very, very important. They can be an asset to you, or they can be a liability. So you have to make the decision. Who should I count on, and who should I count out? Part of my success in life as a young person was I made a conscious decision to stay away from losers. I used to run a nightclub. I never smoked or drank in my life. There were certain things, certain people that I knew I couldn't be around because they were not good for me. And that's the best advice my mother gave me. Birds of a feather flock together. You run around with losers, you end up a loser. That carries over into your adult life. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. It's amazing how it shows up. The most money, and give you a case in point, the most money I've ever earned in an hour and a half was $260,000 in Salt Lake City, Utah. I can remember the day. And I plateaued at that for a long time because nobody around me had earned that amount of money. Then I went to an event, it was called Seminar of the Century, and there were 3 speakers who spoke to me before me did over $1 million. And I said, whoa, that opened up my paradigm of what was possible. And that day, I earned $410,000. What was different? The relationships, the environment, what I saw I said, whoa, if they can do that, then I can do more. And so that's why we want to have relationships that will challenge us, that will stretch us, that will hold us to a higher standard. And people in your life that you know who will be there for you. If that woman over there tells me she wants me to show up, I'm going to show up. Why? Because she's a quality person in my life. You want an OQP, only quality people. She's a quality person that I know that I can count on. When she says, Les, I'm praying for you, I know she's praying for me. And I believe in the scientific power of prayer. That I was going through an experience and I called 3 different people to pray for me, that pain I was going through. And sure enough, it stopped. Now you call it placebo effect, but there's something called the nocebo. Placebo is where you believe, and that belief helps to ignite the epigenetic response. The nocebo, where you don't believe that it can be helpful to you. And because of the energy field of the people, like a Reverend Marine that's in my life, like a Dr. Julie, that I have in my corner angels. I believe in angels. That's pulled me through a lot of stuff that empowered me to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Sometimes I just laugh at myself. When I was in India, and they have these little tuk-tuks, India is a place, it's a place all its own special character. Well, they have these little things that are covered like little motorcycles, right?
Well, they used to be called rickshaws, but now they're tuk-tuks.
They're called tuk-tuks. And you ride around these, and you're trying to get me on one of those. I'm not going to ride on a tuk-tuk, buddy. I don't believe in God working overtime, you know? But it is amazing. All I could think about, that I got here in pursuit of a dream. And those of you who came here tonight, we're going to end it on this. Dr. Howard Thurman, come forth, sir. He was an advisor to Mahatma Gandhi and to Albert Schweitzer and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King Sr. said, Howard, I want you to mentor my boy. He wrote, deep is the hunger, the voice of the genuine, the centering moment. He said, there's something in each and every one of you that waits and listens to the voice of the genuine in yourself. It will be perhaps the only guide you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it all of your life, your days will be spent on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. And I submit to you, there's a still small voice in you that told you to show up, because there's something in you that say, I'm supposed to pull my own strings. There's a voice in you that says, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. There's a voice in you that says, always strive to get on top in life, because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. There's a voice in you that says, you have something special. You have greatness within you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Dr. Julie Van Putten, give her a tremendous round of applause. And
Dr. Maureen.
Dr. Maureen, please come on up. Please, my love. Did you all enjoy yourselves tonight? How do you explain this to people who weren't here? Should have been here. That's right.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
I love and appreciate you so much. Yes,
I love and
yes.
appreciate you.
Yes.
Tell your friends about Les Brown. I know that there's so much on YouTube that you can watch and that you can learn from him. And because he's so special to me, I know that he's now special to you. And yes, you are here by right of consciousness tonight by divine appointment. And I'm seeing faces I haven't seen for a while, and people that I love, and somebody new to love too. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Please, please, drive safely on your way home.
Yeah,
And just-
everybody hold hands. There you
Yes.
go. Let's hold hands here. Father, we give thanks for this time that we spent together. We give thanks for the leadership and for the vision of Reverend Marine and the spirits and souls and consciousness that showed up today. We thank you for those individuals that are here, for their voice, for their story, for their experiences, for the difference that they're going to make in the world. We give thanks for the courage and the drive and the dedication to die to who we've been, to give birth to who we have been chosen to become. Let us say together, I feel love in this room.
I feel love in this room.
There's hope in this room.
There's hope in this room.
There are voices in this room.
There are voices in this room.
Stories in this room
Stories in this room
that will change the world.
that will change the world.
I'm here,
I'm here,
standing in my greatness,
standing in my greatness,
ready
ready
to make a difference.
to make a difference.
That's my story,
That's my story.
and I'm sticking to
And
it.
I'm sticking to it.
Hug at least 2 or 3 people, including me, all right?